All right, so these are the notes for 1.6. Start at the top. All right, so today we're going to be solving polynomial equations, solving equations with radicals, solving equations of the quadratic type, and some applications. So the first problem here, you see the same chunk twice of x plus 1 over x. So we're going to do the chunking. So we're going to say let a equal x plus 1 divided by x. So then I get a squared plus 4a plus 3 equals 0. I'm going to factor this. A plus 3, a plus 1. So that means a is negative 3 or a is negative 1. So then substitute that a here again. So x plus 1 over x can be negative 3. Or x plus 1 over x equals negative 1. Multiply both sides by x here to solve it. So that goes away. So I have x plus 1 equals negative 3x. Add 3x to both sides. Now let's move the 1x over. So subtract x on both sides. So 1 equals negative 4x, divide, so x is negative 1/4. Or multiply by x here. So I get x plus 1 equals negative 1x. Subtract x on both sides. So 1 equals negative 2x, which means x equals negative 1/2. Next one, when you see x to the third equals 25x squared, always set these equations equal to 0 very first. So I have x to the third minus 25x squared equals 0. Factor out an x squared, so then you're left with x minus 25 equals 0. So that means x squared is 0, or x minus 25 equals 0. So x equals 0, or x equals 25. Next problem. We have a whole lot of interesting things here. So let's set this equal to 0. So subtract x cubed from both sides. Move over the 3x squared minus an x on both sides. Let's see what we got. So we have 6x to the third minus 3x squared minus a 2x plus a 1 equals 0. So we have 4 terms. So we're going to factor this by grouping. So we're going to factor by grouping. So the first two take out a 3x squared, and you're left with 2x minus 1. Factor out a negative here, and you're left with 2x minus 1 equals 0. Which means I have 2x minus 1 times 3x squared minus 1 equals 0. Set those to 0, so 2x minus 1 equals 0, or 3x squared minus 1 equals 0. Here you can see you get x is 1/2. Or add 1 here, so we get 3x squared equals 1. Divide by 3, so x squared equals 1/3. Take the square root of both sides, so x equals plus or minus square root of 1/3, which would be plus or minus 1 over square root of 3. So rationalize the denominator, so plus or minus square root of 3 over 3. All right, number 4. We have denominators on this one, which means we could have answers, extraneous solutions that don't check. We'll have to worry about that at the end. So we're going to multiply by the common denominator, but look at this. You can factor that to x plus 2 and x minus 2. So then my common denominator is x minus 2 and x plus 2. So multiply each term by that. So in the first one, we can see the x minus 2's go away. So you're left with x plus 2 times x plus 5 equals 5 times. So this term here is missing, well, not missing. The x plus 2's cross off, so I'm left with 5 and then x minus 2. And then when I multiply that term through there, those terms through the last one, the denominator goes away and I'm just left with 28. So then just solve this. So this will give me an x squared plus a 7x plus 10 equals 5x minus 10 plus 28. So that's x squared plus 7x plus 10 equals 5x plus 18. Set that equal to 0, so I'm going to minus 5x on both sides and minus 18 on both sides. So then I get x squared plus 2x minus 8 equals 0. Factor that to x plus 4, x minus 2 equals 0. So my solutions are x equals negative 4 or x equals 2. You have to check them both. And x equals negative 4 is an answer that can work. If I put positive 2 into the original equation, it would not work, so this doesn't work. So my only solution is x equals negative 4. All right, number 5. I'm going to isolate the radical, so I'm going to minus x on both sides. So I get negative square root of x minus 1 equals 3 minus x. Let's get rid of that negative 1 in front. So divide both sides by negative 1. So then I have square root of x minus 1 equals negative 3 plus x. So how you get rid of a square root is you square both sides. So we're going to square both sides now, which means x minus 1 equals, when you square that out, you would get a 9 minus the 6x plus x squared. So what you're doing is taking negative 3 plus x times negative 3 plus x. So 9 minus 3x minus the 3x plus x squared, which gives you 9 minus 6x plus x squared. Now set this equal to 0, so I'm going to minus x on both sides and add 1. So then I get 0 equals, and rewrite this, x squared minus 7x plus 10. Then see if we can factor this, which we can. So 0 equals x minus 2, x minus 5. So you can see x is 2 or x is 5. So these also we have to do a check back into the original problem. So check both, which means I have 2 minus square root of 2 minus 1 equal 3. Does that check? 2 minus 1 equal 3. 1 equals 3. Nope. So 2 is not a solution. Check the other one. You get 5 minus square root of 5 minus 1 equal 3. So 5 minus the square root of 4. Does that equal 3? So 5 minus 2 equals 3. The answer is yes. So the answer is, the solution that works is 5. All right, this one here is going to take a little more work, which means I need to factor something out. Actually, let's do some chunking on this first. So let's say let a equal x plus 1. So then I have 4a to the half minus 5a to the 3 halves plus a to the 5 halves equal to 0. So then what we want to do is factor out the lowest exponent, like we do if you have a 5x to the third plus x squared, you would factor out an x squared. So we're going to factor out the lowest exponent. So the lowest exponent is a to the half. Factor out a with the lowest exponent. So a to the 1/2 here. So if I factor out a to the half, I'm left with 4. So I factored that out, minus 5 a to the what? Well, you determine what the exponent is by taking 3 halves minus a half. So 3 halves minus a half is 2 over 2, which is 1. So I'm left with 5a plus a to the what? So this I'm going to take 5 halves minus a half, which gives me 4 over 2, which is 2. So this gives me a squared term here, equals 0. So go over here, I'm left with a to the 1/2. Make that look nicer. So a squared minus 5a plus 4. So factor that, you would get a to the 1/2. And then this is going to be a minus 4, a minus 1. Let's use parentheses here. Which means a to the 1/2 equals 0. A minus 4 equals 0. And a minus 1 equals 0. Or a minus 1 equals 0. So the first one here, I would square both sides to solve for a. So a is 0. Here I can see a is 4. And the last one is a equals 1. So I said a was x plus 1. So we say x plus 1 equal to 0. So x equals negative 1. Here a equals 4. So x plus 1 equals 4. Which means x equals 3. Here, x plus 1 equals 1, so x equals 0. And then realize we're dealing with square roots. When I have x plus 1 to the 1/2, I have that's really x plus 1 the square root, so we need to do checks on these. So we have to check all these. So x equals negative 1, so it's going to be 4, then negative 1 plus 1 would be 0 to the 1/2, minus 5 times 0 to the 3/2, plus 0 to the 5/2. Is that giving me zeros? Yeah, all of those are zeros, so this is okay. So now let's check x equals 3. That's 4 times 3 plus 1 is 4 to the half, minus 5 times 4 to the 3/2, plus 4 to the 5/2. Does that equal 0? Use your calculator. So this is 4 times 2 minus 5 times, so that's 4 to the 3/2 would be 8. And then 4 to the 5/2 would be 32. So that's 8 minus 40 plus 32. Will that check? Yep. So the first two check. Now let's check 0. So that's going to be 4 times 1 to the half minus 5 times 1 to the 3/2 plus 1 to the 5/2. Is that 0? So this is going to be 4 minus 5 plus 1, and that also checks. So all answers are correct. All right, last one is a word problem. Grain is falling from a chute onto the ground, forming a conical pile whose diameter is always 3 times its height. How high is the pile when it contains 1,000 cubic feet of grain? Well, the formula for volume of a cylinder is 1/3 pi r squared h. So we know it has to be 1,000 equals 1/3 pi. Well, it tells us the diameter is always 3 times the height. So let's write that down. So diameter is 3h. And we know height is always, diameter is, let's just fill that in and see where we go. 1/3 pi and then r squared and then h, which is we could solve for h here. So h would be d divided by 3. But let's think about that. So we also know then that a diameter will be twice r. So let's fill that in now. So I have 1,000 equals 1/3 pi r squared, and my diameter is 2r divided by 3. So then that gives me 1,000 equals 1/3 pi. I'm going to multiply the r squared times 2r, so that's going to give me a 2r to the third divided by 3. All right, so bring this down here. So I have 1,000 equals, multiply the numerator, so 2 pi r cubed divided by 9. So we multiply by 9 on both sides, so we get 9,000 equals 2 pi r cubed. So divide both sides by 2 pi. So 9,000 divided by 2 pi will be r to the third. Take the third root of each side, or raise each side to the 1/3. I'm going to take this the third root of this. So r will be the third root of 9,000 divided by 2 pi. And I don't have a calculator. Let me see what that will be. Let's see if my phone will work. I'm going to take 9,000 divided by 6.28 approximately. So 1,433, so the third root of that. So I need to take this. So r would equal the third root of 1433.12, which is r will be 11.27. And it wanted the nearest hundredth of a foot, so that would be the answer. I'll label it feet. So then make sure you complete the assignment 1.6, or if you're using the textbook, do those problems, or 1.6 web assign. I do not need work shown today. Make sure you complete that. Any questions, see me.